What's going on, guys? Today I'm with my client, Dave Duckwitz, here in beautiful Mexico. I met Dave actually about 4 years ago here in Puerto Vallarta. He's my neighbor here in the Bay. And Dave, you watched me build Alpha AI from scratch. You watched me get, completely screwed over by people in the process, rebound, come out, build the company. And you even encouraged me to start teaching people about crypto along the way. So great to finally catch up more formally in this sense. And I wanted to invite you over today to have a conversation around your experience with being a client of mine in Bull Market Blueprint, and then also just to provide some backstory of you watching me build the process and almost mentor me throughout the journey.
It's been an absolute pleasure to begin with, and I'm happy to be here today. It's been fun. It's been a nice journey, fun journey, kind of watching you take a concept that I think the two of us came up with and bring it to life. And from my perspective as a CEO several times over of different companies, I don't have time to really learn about crypto. To me, it's almost like a foreign language. It's so technical and different than traditional investing in the stock market. And so one of the early conversations we had was something along the lines of, gee whiz, wouldn't it be great if I can have somebody on a professional level give me some guidance that could help me understand and navigate how to take advantage of what I saw as a very emerging investment opportunity. Crypto, I've got a lot of friends just like you did, which drove you into the market, that have made a lot of money. And I've got a lot of friends that wanted to be in the market, probably made a bunch of mistakes and probably lost a lot of money. So that was kind of the genesis of this whole idea. It's like, how can we offer some level of assistance and guidance, to individuals like me so that we can participate, not have to be the active gurus and still take advantage of this emerging market opportunity.
Absolutely, for sure. So in terms of crypto, when you first got started, because you invested before we met into some Bitcoin and some various other projects, did you have a strategy in place, or were you just sort of putting some money in there and seeing what happened?
For the most part, it's the latter. I would have friends that say, oh, you got to get some Bitcoin, or you got to get some Ethereum, or, oh, I'll check out this great new, crypto called Luna. And we all know how that went. And so is really just trying to dabble, and mostly hope and pray that I didn't lose my ass, right? And when the market went up, I felt great. But when things changed and got unstable, I felt like, geez, I got really nobody to turn to. And what do I do here? Do I get out of the market? And so that was kind of the genesis for these ideas in terms of having tools that could give novices like me guidance and ideas for, what the market's doing and how to, navigate through, what can be sometimes an often complex and scary venture, investing in something you really don't know that much about.
Exactly. So I remember a couple of years ago, as I was building the suite of software for Alpha and showing you our decks and our results and stuff as I was working with other people and investors in that project, you were sort of guiding us through the process of, hey, this is what you should or shouldn't be doing, but also at the same time looking at the results of the system, being like, oh, this is pretty good. Your initial expectation with that versus now, we've had about a year and a half of working together on a more professional level with your own portfolio, following the software, following the strategy. How do you feel about how everything works?
Sure. I mean, from my perspective in the investment that I've made and having you, guide me and nurture that investment, it's been phenomenal. I mean, there's been ups and downs in the market, but I've gone on to recommend the tool to many others that have also been impressed with the service. It's not just the tool; it's like the comprehensive package that you're offering, right? It's the guidance. It's looking at the market and the education that you're providing to people like me that have a lot of other stuff going on. Right? Don't want to miss an opportunity, but don't want to have to go to bed at night wondering, oh crap, what's going to happen tomorrow? Am I going to lose everything I just made? So to me, that's the real value. And it seems like it's now over this consistent period of time that we've been working together and seeing the asset grow and not vaporize like some of my other investments. I have more and more confidence that it's actually a very solid working platform.
Right, of course. So Luna collapsed in 2022. You had a pretty good position in that and some other altcoins that have gone down and are not in the process of recovering. So last summer in 2023 is when you called me and you said, look, I'm looking to take a bigger position in crypto and specifically with Bitcoin, and I want to do it with your system, with your guidance. We actually had a really fantastic buy signal in Bitcoin that same week in August of 2023. And we began building exposure from that point forward with your particular strategy. How's it been doing ever since? Have any of your other investments that you're in since August of last year, so about a year roughly, have they performed better?
I mean, I've hit a couple of nice hits on some real estate deals, but that doesn't really compare to what the stock market has done or what the crypto has done. No, I mean, I really don't have anything that's performed better. I think one of the other things that I'd like to say is that, I offered you money to do this even earlier, right? And said, hey, I got some money, I'll throw at this. Tell me when the time is right. And it wasn't like you jumped on it the next week. It was probably maybe even a month or two after that where you said, okay, now's the time. And you freaking nailed it, right? Literally within, 60 days, the market really took off and it continued to take off. And, again, that just gives me more and more credibility that the toolkit is doing its job. You do a great job of communicating to me. So when we get together on our weekly or biweekly calls and you give me guidance in terms of where the market's going, it's kind of nice to have that little algorithmic tool right along your side as you're in your tool chest. You can kind of walk me through and say, hey, look, here's what the tool is showing. And based on what the tool is showing, my guidance would be take a look at this or take a look at that. And it's been working.
In terms of being a client and not necessarily like you don't attend the weekly sessions that we do or any of that. It's more so just catching up via FaceTime or Zoom with me on an as needed basis a couple times per month. Do you think that saves you a lot of time and not having to worry about going out and figuring out what's happening in the market and applying that to your own situation?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it does two things. One, it keeps me aligned and engaged. So it's not like I'm just handing this thing over to somebody. I'm in it and I'm understanding what's taking place. And B, if ever I have a question, even in between these scheduled calls that we have, you're always available. And whether it's an email or a quick phone call or a WhatsApp or whatever, we've been able to stay in touch. And that just, kind of overall just makes you feel good, right? You know that somebody's, there to help and paying attention and wanting to educate and guide and direct. And as a result of that, things have been going pretty good, and I'm not going anywhere. So the idea is to grow the portfolio and obviously be prudent about what the market is showing us. Getting into some of the smaller coins is even more complicated to me. The big stuff, everybody talks about them. You can read stuff about them, but I wouldn't have the awareness of a lot of the smaller coins if it wasn't for you, kind of bringing them to my attention, explaining to me what they do at a high level, and have a balanced portfolio of some of these other coins are important to have as far as kind of an investment strategy, and knowing when to get in and knowing when to get out.
Of course,
it's been essential.
Very important. Have you been able to find or interact with any other services or products like this that help you with your stock portfolio at all?
I mean, I've got the typical, investment advisor from my Morgan Stanley guy, and he's fantastic and does a great job with that. But as it relates to crypto, no. You get a lot of propaganda in social media from people that say they know what they're doing and they can help. But I just now have this experience with you, and this tool is like something you can actually touch and play with yourself, and it's real. And so with that, it just breeds a lot of confidence that this is not just some kind of marketing gimmick. This is a real strategy. This is kind of a relationship where you're understanding kind of my, level of investment threshold and risk, and you're trying to give me a balanced perspective so that I understand how to navigate, through, all these different crypto investment opportunities. So we come out on top, and, happy it's working.
Awesome. So I think one of the main concerns people have is, why should I pay somebody upfront to help me figure this out? I could do my own research, blah, 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 blah. But, for example, you have an advisor that helps you with your stocks, and I'm assuming he's going to take a percentage of your portfolio or your portfolio's growth at some point. Like, he's obviously getting paid to help you with your stock portfolio. although I'm not going to take a percentage of your earnings because I can't do that, but if you pay me a fee and I lay out the roadmap for what you should be doing with crypto and how you can best approach the market, would you say that's been worth it to you?
At the end of the day, it's a risk mitigation strategy. Could I take my own time and learn it and understand it, and invest? Yes. Am I ever going to be at your level? Probably not. Do I have time to do it? No, because I got a lot of other things that I'm doing. I'm running companies, I'm investing. And so it's really great having a partner that can help me navigate this, just given the time and the risk analysis of, wanting to be in the market, not wanting to make those mistakes. And frankly, I've got friends that have made some mistakes. In the stock market, it's one of those things where you typically, all right, I'm going to invest for the long term. I'm going to put the money in there and I'm going to see a good return come out of that. History will tell you that over time, put it in there for a long period of time, you're going to come out okay. Crypto's kind of a new frontier. What's that history lesson going to tell us? Maybe the same thing, but there's a lot of things I think that you need to navigate through along the course that may be different than the stock market. Frankly, even in the stock market, because I'm a businessman, I understand things that I'm investing in better than I do in crypto, honestly. But that doesn't mean that I ever managed my own stock investment portfolio either. I didn't. I focused on what I know how to do well, and that's operate and grow companies, and make side investments, in things that I know something about. Crypto is just one of those very complex things that I don't know a whole heck of a lot about. And it's ever evolving and changing. So having a relationship with someone that has a grasp on technology to help him with that, and then delivers a service offering that's just top notch. I mean, being able to get on a call regularly and see what's going on in the market and understand, how to make these moves based on market conditions. It's hard to get that level of service from others. So you're doing a good job with it.
Awesome. So I know when we first came up with your strategy and talked about what you wanted to do, both short-term and long-term with crypto, it was more so don't love the idea of riding it up and then riding it back down again, which was kind of what happened in the last cycle with your portfolio. So not wanting to do that again, taking profits when the profits were presented to you and the rest of the market was becoming very greedy. So we noted that down right off the bat. And we've been working to get your portfolio that was sort of just a bunch of different things, altcoins and Bitcoin, and consolidate that first into a very good portfolio that's properly weighted from the start of large caps and medium/small caps. And then from there, recover the growth to get you back to where you were at, say, all-time highs in the previous cycle. Now the market's cooled off a little bit since the highs of this year, but we're well on track to getting that back. And it's probably been a much less turbulent journey back up than what you've experienced previously.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I invested in Luna, and at one point in time, things were looking great, right? It was crazy. This is before you and I got together, and I just heard it from a friend. But I completely lost that entire portfolio. So, that takes the wind out of your sails pretty quickly in terms of, wanting to continue in the market when there's such a substantial loss. But, after seeing the tool and the guidance service delivery that you're offering, and then obviously making, a nice investment with you and seeing what that's done, all those fears have been alleviated. And just excited about what the future holds, about, continuing on, growing the portfolio. Obviously, where it's prudent, take profit off the table. That nobody wants to get greedy, right? There's always times to take profit and come back into the market at the appropriate time. And, I know that's part of your strategy as well.
Do you have a lot of confidence that the system and the toolkit's going to help make that a reality? I
mean, we have running history now of over a year, right? So, in that time frame, absolutely everything has been great. I mean, I've had nothing that's caused me any major concern. In fact, I love breaking out my phone and showing my friends on what Kraken looks like today versus yesterday. It's pretty fun. Again, it's all great when things are going in the right direction, but having that backstop of using tech and services to make sure that I'm not going to get stung like I did again with Luna. To me, that just gives me the confidence to keep going, keep investing, and making some good money out of this market.
Awesome. That's great. thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.